dogs and cats around, I'm gassed. I love animals. I'm going to start a new YouTube channel called Animals with JB, I reckon.
I really want a duck.
You want a dog?
A duck.
A duck?
Yeah.
That's chaos.
Okay, sync up.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Josh. I'm not Francais, but I'm wearing Lacoste.
Today's guest runs a seriously underrated YouTube channel. From motocross to an automotive YouTuber, owning both a 9N Volkswagen Polo and an NA Aster MX-5, as well as making DIY install and general car videos. Welcome to the driving talk show with
Cars with JB. Instagram at Cars with JB, YouTube Cars with JB. They're the only two things I use really, so just Cars with JB basically.
Yeah, at Yuwan Thayakaran for me. You've probably already subscribed to me, so
0753 233, yeah, that's me.
How do you pass your theory test? So I passed my theory test first time. It was a lot more stress than it needed to be, if that makes any sense. So when I started prepping for my theory test, I think my aunt or someone bought me the 3 DSA driving standards books, and they were literally like the Bible to me when it comes to passing your theory test. One of them is literally like every single question that could possibly ever come up in your theory test, and like the examination part of it. So I basically went through that, smashed out every single question, then went through the answers and made sure what I got right and wrong, etc. Then I did it again the night afterwards, and again just did it in pencil so I could rub it out and start over. It was a long process, but it was very much worth it, because on the day I got 49 out of 50 or something. Not to flex on you, but that's what I got, which is pretty sick. And then when it comes to hazard perception, that's a lot more difficult. So I was really worried about that. I thought, like, I'd seen all these posts on Student Room and on all sorts of other sort of forms and forums, etc. Everyone basically was saying like, oh, I don't understand it, it doesn't make any sense, it pisses me off, etc, etc. But in reality, everyone is way too stressed for it when it's just the case of clicking when you see a hazard. Like, we're driving along the road right now. If I spotted a hazard on the side of the road, someone who was coming up to maybe a roundabout or a junction too fast, or a person who's clearly running out from a park or something, I just click. It's nice and easy. It's literally that simple. So yes, if the hazard perception goes wrong, don't worry about it. You can do a bunch of practice ones online and just get yourself used to it. What I would say though is just don't spam your clicks, because that's the easiest way to fail.
yeah. So when did you pass the theory?
So I passed my theory in 2013, I think, maybe December 2013. I passed my theory. Like, I basically did my theory before my driving instructor suggested that I needed to. It's actually much easier to pass if you just take it like a standard exam at school. And by that I don't mean mess around and do F4, I mean like prep, basically.
Because I passed my theory test in 2019, and it's like really different to how you explained it. You used a book, but I used an app, and I did like mock tests every day for like 3 months.
Really?
Every night,
That's mad.
It's stressful, but it works out in the end. I also got 49 out of 50.
Nice.
Hazard perception, with mine, all of the clips were CGI.
Oh, mad.
So it was much easier to
So
spot out
in the actual test they were CGI?
Yeah.
Oh, sick. So in mine, I'm some next old kid at this point.
Yeah.
Like, mine was actual, like, real life driving situations, whereas CGI, that does make sense. See, that's pretty cool actually. Well, I would suggest if there is an app that you can do it on, then just smash it out on the app. Like, that makes a lot more sense. But I found, maybe I'm old school, but the driving exam books were super easy to work off of.
With the app I used, it was also DVSA official stuff,
Yeah.
and it had hazard perception and theory questions.
Yeah.
You could do like mock tests off each one.
Yeah.
And it really helpful.
That is pretty sick. Yeah, well then, in which case, I would definitely go for that app.
And if she wants to rest, then come to the edge of Northwest and you'll find me.
There's 2 types of ways you can have a first lesson. One way would be that you've got some driving experience before that. 2 is that you've got no driving experience your first time in the car. I'll try and address both of them. So I was driving before I had my first driving lesson. I was driving around on provisional insurance with my dad, which was pretty helpful, I felt. It meant that it gave me a chance to actually feel a car and drive around for a bit, and it meant that I didn't spend so much money on driving lessons, because obviously every lesson adds up, and if you want to try and pass your test, then you want to be minimising the number of lessons to maximise your efficiency and minimise the amount of money you're spending. That was me going into it, basically. I think what was interesting from that perspective was that I had already built up some bad habits and stuff that I shouldn't be doing when it comes to my test, because in one of my recent videos I was talking about how to pass your test. Your test is not a case of like proving yourself as an amazing driver or whatever. It's literally just a case of understanding how to pass a test.
Yeah.
Like, it's like going and doing your GCSEs or your A-levels or your BTECs or whatever it is that you're doing. Like, you treat them like a test. You don't treat it like a look at how sick I am at maths. And I feel like some people mistake that when it comes to a test. So when it comes to your first driving lesson, think of it in the exact same way. It's day one of prep for getting towards that test. When it comes to doing that first driving lesson and it's your first ever time driving a car, I think my main suggestion would be listen to your driving instructor, because they've done it a million times. It's their job. They're professionals when it comes to it. So I would say listen to your driving instructor. Number two, don't panic. Panicking is one thing that people do in cars throughout their entire time of driving. I just think it's not a helpful thing. When you panic, everything goes out the window. All of your logic, everything that's useful just disappears, and you start doing stupid stuff. So I think listen to your driving instructor, take it nice and slow, don't expect yourself to be an amazing driver on your first lesson. I think on my first lesson with my driving instructor, remembering that I had spent time in the car, we drove for about 3 minutes. He was like, let me see what you can do, and I drove for about 3 minutes. We stopped and he was like, right mate, you need to slow down, you need to be more sort of smooth, you need to panic less, all these other things. And I was like, oh, I thought I was like half decent at driving, but he just came through and just told me all these things I needed to change. And it was only when I slowed down and just did things nice and carefully and learned properly that I made use of those lessons. So go into your first lesson, open mind. You're not a sick driver yet. Even if you've played Bear Gran Turismo or Forza Horizon 4 or whatever it is, you're not a sick driver yet. You will be though. Also, just have fun. Like, everyone always gets so scared and gassed up about their driving lessons and stuff, but it's actually quite a fun experience. Have a chat with your driving instructor, find out about his or her life. It's just a good experience.
Yeah.
How was your driving lessons? Oh, that's what I want to know.
It was okay. Like, I didn't stall on my first lesson, which I found crazy, but I didn't know how sensitive the accelerator pedal was.
Yeah.
Even though it's a diesel car.
But diesel's got that torque though, so you can probably send it in a diesel.
It was a 1.2 Clio.
1.2 Clio.
Yeah.
Well, it's like a DCI.
DCI.
Or DCI.
Yeah, it was like a red Clio. He drives around here, so you might see him. So.
Nice. What's his name?
Devitt.
Yes, Devitt.
The edge of Northwest and you'll find me. Break your heart, not like me. Break your heart, yeah, I might slightly.
I actually had a very calm one, so I'm speaking about this from my very slight experience of him getting more annoyed, and also my dad as well. Just think of them like a teacher. So when you're at school and you got a teacher, they have your best interests in mind most of the time, you'd assume. They want you to succeed, they want you to do well in your exams. It makes them look good if you do well in your exams. If you turn up to school, you absolutely smash your GCSEs and you leave, and that was all because of their class, they're going to be gassed because like they're going to get nice pay rises, nice bonuses, all that good stuff because their students are doing well. If you're instead not doing well, they're going to get annoyed about that. They're going to push you forward to make you do well. It's exactly the same logic when it comes to your driving instructor. Your driving instructor just wants you to succeed because they want a really good pass rate. They want to be out here as one of those driving instructors that just is renowned for getting you through your test. When they're talking to you in whatever way they're doing, if they're angry, if they're sad, if they're happy, if they're gassed, whatever it is, just take it all with a pinch of salt and just focus on what they're actually saying and ignore the potential animosity. Did you have a shouty driving instructor?
It wasn't like really shouty, but like if I made a mistake, then he did like shout and stuff.
Did he?
Yeah.
Mad. How did you find it?
At first it was kind of off-putting, but then I was like, actually I'm putting his life in danger with like, because I'm in charge of his life because I've got the car and stuff.
Yeah.
If I make a mistake and it goes wrong, then it might end seriously bad and stuff, so I don't blame them for being shouty.
Yeah. I feel that as well, because like it's important to remember, as in this don't want to put you off driving, but as in it's important to remember that cars are just basically big metal death boxes.
Yeah.
They can be amazing and they can get you from A to B, and you can have fun in them, you can do some great stuff in cars.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they are quite dangerous. They're dangerous to pedestrians, they're dangerous to people driving them and to people driving other cars as well. So like when you're in a classroom and the teacher shouts at you, okay, it can be kind of peaked because like no one's going to die. But when it's in a car, someone could die if it goes really wrong. Driving is something that you should take seriously in a really boring old person way of saying it, but it's like this is serious business.
Yeah, car's pretty much a weapon, kind of.
Yeah, agreed. Like literally, you could literally use it as a missile. People do. Like, as in, think about what's happened recently and why we're getting so many bollards around and that kind of stuff. It's all because people have been actually using vehicles as weapons. So, like, it's a very, very fair point right there.
But I'll treat you so kindly, and you know it won't end nicely.
In one of my recent videos, I actually spoke about how to pass your driving test, because I spoke about my driving test and then helped other people with theirs. I think there's no direct science to passing your driving test. I think 45% of tests are passed year on year, so that means 55% of people, or 55% of tests that are done aren't getting passed. So if you don't pass your first test or your second test or whatever, you're still in the majority as opposed to the minority. There's a few key things that you can do to help yourself pass your test. Number one, I think one of the most important things that you need to consider whenever you're trying to pass your test is what I said before actually, which is that passing your test is not showing how good you are at driving, it's simply passing a test. And so for that reason, you can actually try and treat it like a test. Like, what are the key things you need to know or do to pass it, as opposed to look at how good a driver I am, I should pass. That's quite key. And I think around that point as well, another thing is that I would suggest heavily is giving yourself enough time in the car before you take your test. You do see some incredible stories of people who've done 5 lessons and they passed because all the stars aligned and it all worked out perfectly for them. I think that is quite a dangerous way of going about passing your test, because I'm a million times better at driving now than I was when I passed my test, because I've just had the experience. And when that person pulls out on you, or when that person does that silly thing, you're handling a bike or a bicycle or whatever it is, if you don't have the experience of those things, you don't know how to deal with them in your test. So the more experience you get driving your car and the more time you spend actually, I don't know, like learning and experiencing, the better it enables you to pass your test, is what I would say. One thing you should be doing, irrespective, because people fail on this all the time, is observation. Driving down a straight road, just to show that you're aware of your surroundings, you should be looking and just double checking, like, yeah, everything's good, like there's nothing going on around me. You get to a junction, you should be like in the mirrors, looking backwards, like doing all that good stuff. And then when you're doing like a maneuver, so like parallel parking, etc., at every single stage of the maneuver, you should be looking around, and not just like using your eyes and like looking left and right. You should be literally like proving that you can do it. Apply that to everything. Over exaggerate your abilities and the things that you have to do to pass your test, and it will make it so much easier for you.
07554, ring that, might ignore.
Let's talk about on the day of your driving test, things that you should do. Get a good night's sleep the night before so that you're in a good position. Make sure as well that you are well breakfast or lunch or whatever it is, like you're fed. There's nothing about your comfort that is like sketchy. Remember that the examiner can smell your fear. So you need to do your absolute best to make sure that you're as comfortable and as sort of composed as possible. If you're there and you're shaking and you're scared, and people have been talking about their clutch pedal foot shaking and that kind of stuff, you just need to try your best to be as calm as possible. The calmer and more comfortable and more collected and composed you are, the more rational your decisions are going to be in your test when something crazy happens. And then when you're actually on your test, don't panic, and also do the things in the car that make you comfortable. So I was saying actually before, didn't really go into it, but on my driving test, I spent the whole time chatting to the driving instructor. It was quite mad. Like, we had the most extended conversation. It went on for hours and hours and hours. Well, it didn't, because the test was 45 minutes, but it went on for quite some time. We didn't stop talking the whole time, and that one took his focus off of me driving, so I might have made a ton of mistakes, but he was busy chatting to me. And 2, it meant that like I was comfortable, because I feel comfortable when I'm chatting to people and just having a good time. If we were sitting there in dead silence in the car and I'm just there doing my thing, I'm not going to pass in the same way, or I'm going to be uncomfortable and it's going to be a weird experience. So make yourself comfortable. If you want to hum, sing, whatever it is that you do, just don't look like you're not paying attention, basically.
Ring that when you pick up the drawer. She rings that when she's at the door.
Let's assume you passed your test, you absolutely smashed it, you've got 0 minors, you're loving life, and you're thinking to yourself, right, I need to get my first wagon, what's it going to be? This is personal opinion, so I've done a whole bunch of videos on this stuff, but my personal opinion is that your first car should be something cheap, cheerful, and fun. Sorry, Yuwan, this is a bit too expensive for my liking, thank you very much. This is a sick car, so Yuwan's done very well here, but as in, my first car was a £400 Skoda Fabia Estate with 65,000 miles in it or something, 64,000 miles. It was absolutely my first love. Like, nothing came close to that car. It was just perfect. And I think what made it so perfect was that I was never scared about crashing it. It was just a fun car to own, and it went wrong every so often. Like, the coil packs used to go and all sorts of other stuff went wrong with the car, but it had so much character, and I think a lot of new cars kind of lack that character. I also think that whenever you have a car like that, you have a really good opportunity to learn how to drive on the roads without the fear of crashing, without the fear of anything, because if you crash, it's a 400 quid car, like who cares? Actually, to be fair, when I crashed that car, I really cared, but we'll gloss over that. But in terms of like expensive versus cheap, being a bit more objective rather than biased in the situation, I think another point as well is that whenever you're getting your first car, it might be worth test driving it first. I'm an idiot, I didn't test drive any of the 3 cars that I bought, in fact. I just went out and bought them just because I have a dad who's a car mechanic, so I kind of can. But if you haven't got a dad who's a car mechanic and you don't have that experience of mechanicals, then it might be worth test driving the car. And also before that as well, doing some severe research. This is good for anyone buying a car, by the way. Do some proper research into the common problems of that car, find out everything that goes wrong with that car and ways that you would find out how you know that's gone wrong. And then when you get in the car, you'll be able to drive it and be like, oh yeah, this has got that clutch issue, or this has got that gearbox issue.
I'll make tracks for the CDJ. I'm the new chap that the DJs play.
Don't go with the performance.
Don't go with a performance car. Like, it's just not a good idea.
Pen girl looking like Margot, but a man thinks I'm an arsehole, but we won't.
Now, insurance is dead. I don't care what anyone says. I don't like insurance. It is the deadest thing, especially when you're 17 and just getting into a car, or whatever age it is you're just getting into a car. It's not fun.
In the UK as well.
In the UK.
It's terrible.
Yeah. In other countries I know it's better, and loads of people comment on my videos and stuff, but insurance is peak, basically. Now, there are some things that you can do to get those insurance prices down. I would highly recommend, and I'd hope that you'd recommend too, going onto that video that I made that teaches people how to get cheap insurance quotes. I did a shed load of research in how to try and get your quotes down. So using like Compare the Market or whatever, I worked out how to get cheaper insurance. It was good. Like it's really helped me, and it's helped a whole bunch of other people get their insurance quotes down. But some key facts from that video, I think it's about, if you can put your parents, and your parents are clean drivers, or another parent, like guardian figure or whatever, on your insurance, that can really bring your price down quite significantly. So let's say you're 17, you've got your car, yada yada, you put 2 parents on as named drivers, that would decrease your insurance quote quite significantly. Another thing that was quite good is I worked out that 3,000 miles is about the right amount that you want on your car. So as in, you want to say that you're going to do 3,000 miles a year, you might be doing more or less than that, but in terms of the quote, that gets you quite a cheap quote. There's basically a strategy to getting cheaper quotes on your insurance, and then once you've done all of those things I mentioned in that video as well, one thing that you should do is call. So you've got your quotes, then start calling around insurers and see what you can get. So I'll give you an example. I'm trying to insure my Mazda MX-5 at the moment with a whole bunch of mods on it, and as you may know, modifications are peak for your insurance. They will just up your insurance so madly. I'm 24 and I was getting quotes of £1,300 for all of the mods that I'm doing to the car. I was actually going to insure them all ahead of time. I then called and spoke to a whole bunch of places, and I've managed to get that quote down to £600. That's just by calling. Like, I was going to pay £1,300, and just by calling and talking to people and saying, well, this is what I'm using the car for, and this is why I'm a safe driver, and yada 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 yada, £600. That's pretty sick. Like, that's under half the amount I was going to pay, so it's pretty good. So yeah, definitely call, talk to someone. The one thing I did was that, and this isn't a lie by the way, I had a quote on the car of £500, but that was without any mods on it. They were like, oh, have you got any other quotes for the car? And I was like, yeah, I got offered £500. And they were like, oh man. So then they go off and they talk to a whole bunch of people, and they're like, oh, can I get this guy's quote down? I want to make a sale, yada yada yada. Boom, they hit you with the £600. You're gassed. It's pretty sick. So yeah, highly recommend that to anyone who's getting insurance in their cars.
Won't let her see me because he knows I'm a G, and an MC that takes bare P and
there's a whole thing about declaring mods on your insurance, right? So you should do it, basically, as simple as that. You should declare whatever mods you do to your car, because if the insurers, basically, insurers work like law, like legal companies. They are literally lawyers. So they come out, they find that you've had a crash, they find everything that they can potentially not pay you money for, and they won't pay you money for it. Let's say you've just put a nice set of Go Faster stripes on your car and you haven't told your insurers about it. If you have a crash and they see the pictures of your car and they've got Go Faster stripes, they'll be like, well, is that standard? You're like, no. They're like, well, we don't need to pay out because we're insuring a standard car. And so suddenly, what you thought you were paying for as insurance wasn't. You were just paying people money for no good reason. So it is worth declaring your mods on your insurance if you don't want to get into that sticky situation. But mods that you can do that don't affect insurance: replacing your seats. So actually replacing your seats often helps your insurance quote decrease. So it was one thing that I found when I was doing this video, that a whole bunch of cars, when you change the seats on them, the insurance prices went down. I don't know why that is. I don't know why it's suddenly safer to have a car with replaced seats in it, but it is apparently. So if you want to put a nice set of buckets in your car, that can be quite useful. And also, in my opinion, that's one of the best mods I've done. Changing my seats from the standard Polo ones to the GTI Polo ones, just fully changed my whole driving experience. It just keeps you in the car. Alloys is standard. It does affect your insurance because it's like something that lots of people do. They're one of the most sort of basic mods that you can do, and they're good, not only like ignoring the insurance point, they're good for learning some basic points about working on a car.
Yeah. Ooh. Sorry.
It's very nice. Yeah, they're good to just learning how to work on a car, so they're quite good. Another one as well is brakes. So if you want to put some good brake pads on your car, that can be quite helpful. And normally as well, if you change your brake pads, it's not that big a deal. You might want to get away with it. I don't tell anyone I told you to do that, but like if you want to change your brake pads to some yellow stuff brake pads or whatever, it will significantly increase your braking, and like, yeah, you'll be gassed. I think just have fun with it. Like, change the seats, do a bunch of stupid stuff, stick a load of stickers on the inside and the outside of the car, just have fun. That's the benefit of having a cheap car. You can do some nasty things to it, rice it, do whatever. Just literally have fun. It's a really good learning experience. Don't worry about other people thinking about how your car looks. Just make sure that you're gassed with it and you'll be having a good time.
Lacoste, Lacoste, Lacoste. That's the top that I rock when I'm feeling a boss. Lacoste, Lacoste, Lacoste. That's the top that I cop when I'm feeling to shop. Lacoste, Lacoste, Lacoste. I do not ball, I do not floss. I'm not a fool, I know the cost, but I love how I feel when I'm sporting Lacoste.